Hey everyone, thank you so much for letting me join the party here with you all. This is quite an honor. This is a real treat. SAINTCON is something that I'll admit is a little bit new to me. I think I'm one of the ones that raised their hand asking when the question was, has anyone been here before? Is this their first time ever at SAINTCON? But it has been a real treat to be able to get together with you all, and thank you for letting me kickstart the party. What I'd like to do for our first entree here is a little talk and presentation titled, I've been dancing and kicking around this idea of the InfoSec yard sale, our overabundance of everything. And I will get kind of the administrivia out of the way. I know I like to try to ask a question for the very beginning of a presentation to make sure everyone's still here with us, but Troy had already took mine asking, hey, is this anyone's first SAINTCON ever? I'd love to, I don't know if that's the case or not, but is this anyone's first ever cybersecurity conference at all event conference? Maybe some? Okay, I see a couple hands. That's pretty awesome. You are all in the right place. This is super cool. Well, I really appreciate the warm welcome. I'll get the credibility slide crap over with because I know no one really cares. Little Comic Sans font making fun of all that here. But look, I got my feet wet in cybersecurity, trying to cut my teeth on this and get a little bit sharper with the Coast Guard, kind of starting there. Bounced around to the Department of Defense, Cyber Training Academy, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, and I finally found my home, my day job now at Huntress. I'm one of the security researchers there, so a nerd and a geek, trying to chase hackers and cut up malware, and a lot of that is for like endpoint detection response, or a lot of managed security platform security solutions, but I know folks might be a little bit more familiar with my work online. And thank you for all the support. That was very surreal, seeing all the hands up that have seen my silly, stupid YouTube videos where I'm just like, I know, literally sitting in my room yelling at my computer all alone. But somehow I hope there is some value there, and I'm really grateful for all your support. With that, I gotta add the disclaimer. I have to note, I still get struck by the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt and the wondering and worry that, like, goodness gracious, I should not be the one up here on stage chatting with you all. It should be someone else. So I'm gonna do my darndest, but I'll always try to sprinkle in that extra insight. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not an expert. There are no cybersecurity experts because our field is just too big. There's too much stuff. There's too much to learn. There's too much to keep track of. There's so much out there that there's no way you could be an expert. And I want to dance with that a little bit because I think that was the idea, where we just have to have too much stuff, like a yard sale. And maybe this is silly. I really just like this picture. I wanted to make sure, we made that kind of the central theme here. And maybe I was dancing with the idea, should the title here be a fire sale where everything must go? We're just getting all of the info, all of the stuff out and about, laid out and out on display. I know that that's a lot of stuff. And we'll fill in the gaps as to, okay, what does that stuff really mean? But I think you'll probably latch on to, there is an endless amount of stuff, much like you might see at a yard sale, where it's just junk and trash and stuff that's just sprayed out. And a lot of it is duplicative. A lot of it is stuff that you don't need. And goodness, you certainly don't need more than one of. And I don't know if we liken that to, some of the degrees, some of the certs, some of the training, some of the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it can be overwhelming because we have so much stuff. And when we put it all on the table, this is a slide that I think might liken well for the folks that said they were new, or they were, just first time at their conference here at SAINTCON, or first cybersecurity event ever. Do you ever feel like you don't know where to start? You want to get into the cybersecurity, this industry, this passion, something that you're so excited about because it looks so cool, but it's overwhelming and you just don't even know where to begin. That's that analysis paralysis to start off. I also just kind of like maybe some more of this imagery and this analogy at the yard sale. You got the weird, I don't know, dilapidated dolls in the corner. You've got some leftover food, a printer that doesn't work, and a weird, sleazy, shady guy kind of trying to give you a deal, trying to let you know, hey, if you pay whatever with this, maybe you'll have new opportunities, new adventures, new things on your horizon for your career, for your vacation, anything. Those, again, I don't know if you play or like that imagery of too much stuff out there that can be put in a strange light. Has anyone seen this picture before? Okay, a couple raised hands. I don't know how well you could see at the very top, but this is a roadmap, quote unquote, of some training, some cybersecurity and in the industry certifications. When you get a nice little checkbox that you could put in your resume, another scratch and sniff sticker to add to your accolades, a sweet whatever plus, whatever acronym, whatever certification that hopefully could be a foot in the door for another job. But this, when you try to bucket or categorize what different theme or adventure in cybersecurity that you're going after, whether that's red team or offensive security, more ethical hacking and penetration testing, or a little bit more blue team, defense, hardening, security, or some more of the managerial work, some of the government compliance, some GRC standards and frameworks. This, though, is not helpful. This is, again, that overwhelming too much stuff. And this is an old picture, by the way. I don't know if you can see in the timestamp there. There's a 2024, July 2024. Maybe this has just blown up even more. But I don't think this could be really a roadmap. A one step from A to B to C to get your next step in the next rung in the ladder that you're trying to climb here. That's part of the problem. And I was alluding to that red team and blue team. Can I ask anyone in the audience that might liken themselves more towards that offensive security, a little more red end things? Okay, a couple hands. Anyone for blue, a little bit more defense, a little bit more hardening, security? Sweet. I think you'll find no matter which side of the fence, and not to say that there's some divide, because it is, again, what we want to be together and a collaborative here for some of that purple team or some great work that we all do in the industry, whatever color of the color wheel you align yourself to, you're probably going to be getting that same feeling, or you've heard it. I'm sure you've seen it out on the internet. There's too much stuff. And we can fill in the gap on that. Have you ever seen that? Has that been online, on Twitter, on Reddit? I don't know. In cybersecurity, there are too many blank. Does anyone have anything they could shout out? Anything they're top of mind? That was awesome. I was call and response. Well done, everyone. Try that again. I don't know if I caught it. It was all at once. Vendors? Job requirements? This is awesome. Excellent work. Thought leaders? Influencers? Conferences? Acronyms? I like that. I think there are a couple up here, right? Alerts, buzzwords, vulnerabilities, threat actors, checklists, certifications, products, layoffs. Job requirements, I'm hearing. AI, cool. Well, I'm glad you can easily fill in the gap, because you probably heard that and you're probably feeling it the very same way. Our overabundance of fill in the blank, something else that's just too much of. There are too many things in cybersecurity. And if you try to keep up with it all, if you try to chase whatever one of those, too many different hackers, too many different vulnerabilities, jumping after the next job or opportunity, that's when that sleazy salesman comes out with the, strange looking toys and things in the corner and say, look, hey, If you get some of these, maybe there's a BOGO, buy one, get one free, 3-for-1 special. You can get stress, burnout, and imposter syndrome. The Triforce. But what if we kind of took a step back? What if we turn that on its head? Because normally when you hear that phrase, or when we were having a little bit of a fun gaggle laughing about, yeah, there is too much stuff, or when you see this out on the internet, oftentimes people are kind of poo-pooing what we're up to, making fun of all the stuff that we deal with. But what if we actually maybe heard something that you don't always hear? Something that you could fill in the gaps and fill in the blank for the sentence, but it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And you never hear people say, in cybersecurity, there are too many free resources, or resources to begin with. Education, training, material, things that could help bolster your material, your learning, your professional career. I'll note though, and I'll take this with a grain of salt, that's still a part of the noise. There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of stuff, but having an overabundance of these resources, free resources, might very well just be a good thing. Not something we'd poo-poo on and, make fun of and laugh at. So I'll admit, I dabble on the old Twitterverse, or X, or whatever it's called now. I will doom scroll and get the brain rot just scrolling through social media. And one post caught my eye that made some waves. There were a couple extra views and likes and repost count on that. But Mel had asked this question, no capitalization, new punctuation, cool, classic 2025 types. It said, what killed the hacker culture? And I'd love to ask for some of the more of that audience participation. Anyone else got anything they want to shout out? Anything they want to vent? Any dirty laundry? Money? AI again. Commercialization.
Higher ed.
Higher ed? Well, there's another perspective that I saw as a response to this out on Twitter, out on X. Are folks familiar with VX Underground? You've seen that account running around, yeah? VX Underground is really a group, a whole team, kind of cohort that's putting together the largest, or like the internet's largest collection of malware samples with the right reasons, with the good intent, with the, for the posterity and to catalog and archive all of the techniques and tradecraft and the learning that's come throughout all the years upon different adversaries or things that are still just capabilities we should know and understand. But VX Underground had responded to this quote tweeted in response to Mel, that prompt, what killed the hacker culture? And he said, look, maybe this is an extremely hot take, but it's better now. The hacker culture is better now and more alive than it's ever been. Because some time ago, in the 90s, the 2000s, computer exploitation and malware development, all this stuff was like some voodoo witchcraft dark arts, where wizards would get up on stage and impress other wizards by doing their magic trick, their stunt, their little show, and then they would all like bang their staff on the ground, and haha, yes, more wizardry magic. As if they were the select few handpicked by God to be able to do that kind of thing. But now, in 2025, today's day and age, there are so many different resources. There are so many different websites. There are so many different war games, practice cyber ranges, things to be able to play and cut your teeth and learn and get sharp on all this. Of course, the university lectures, of course, conferences just like this, social media folks, nerds and geeks like me, silly influencers or whatever that are trying to scream and shout about this stuff. The education and awareness is out there. And I think that's a good thing. That's net positive. I do want to give a little bit more love to VX Underground. You could probably track them down online if you're interested. Again, a lot of those resources for different malware samples, different malware papers, some learning there. They have a Twitter account, a Telegram account, and their website. They also have a couple cat pictures. I think that's part of their meme, their joke. They like to troll and share a whole lot of cat pictures along with it. But I'll add the note here. VX Underground didn't always exist, right? That whole idea, that whole premise, this whole effort and initiative to be able to capture, catalog, and make sure this information is preserved wasn't always a thing. And all the folks, or all those resources, all those educational sites weren't something that would be previously out and about. There are other content creators similar. Are folks familiar with InfoSec? Nick, yeah, good friend. He's another creator, some fellow and friend on the internet that tries to share video walkthroughs or write-ups, really demonstrations, like a show and tell, looking over the shoulder, watching his computer screen as he works through some of those resources. Hack the Box, one of the online platforms to practice and learn some cybersecurity stuff, or cutting up different CTF, or capture the flag, games and activities. And he's made this entire website based off of the hundreds, if not thousands, of videos that he's been able to put together, where you could just as easily search through text. Because I know Control F, looking through a text article, is a lot easier than trying to scan through a playback bar in a video, especially across however many hundreds or thousands of videos. I'm a little jealous. I really wish I had done something like this, because he had time-stamped each individual part whenever he is trying to do a deserialization attack, whenever he's performing some local file inclusion, or figuring out the reverse engineering process to find the things that could lead to a buffer overflow. All of those different things that might be helpful for you some way, somehow, because it's just like notes. It's just something you can harken back to, something you can refer back to when later on down the road, you're going to run into a similar situation. Another sweet resource that's been available on that front. So forgive me, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I don't want to kind of beat this to death, but I did want to show you some of the other resources that you may already be familiar with. I know maybe good folks are already tracking a lot of these, and maybe some aren't. But please keep in mind that overarching theme, that overarching idea. Think about how your work, how your job, how your learning, how your school, your education, anything that you do or you're a part of, did not have these resources previously. They didn't always exist, but it took a little bit of the effort to put it together. This is the LOLBins or LOLBAS, like living off the land, binaries and applications, scripts and libraries. And this is a collection, another catalog, another archive of just natural, native, like already installed programs, computer programs and applications on Windows, already on your operating system. It's shipped with it, it's included by default, that could be used and abused by threat actors, hackers, cyber criminals to do more post-exploitation, or lateral movement, or exfiltration, or other tricks to upload and download, or stage other files and put other malware hooks and things in there. I know this is one valuable asset for knowing what threats are out there and how it can be done where it's not always going to be signatured, where it's not something that, a static antivirus engine could track, but you'll know some of the more behavioral EDR understanding of what's really happening on that system. And maybe if you've been beaten up or cutting up, I don't know, try Hack Me, Hack the Box, other boot to root, CTF, learning, again, maybe students trying to get into the scene and then into the industry. GTFO bins, maybe an equivalent of this on the Linux side of the house, not just Windows, is your immediate go-to. Like, that's a knee-jerk reaction. You're always going to be taking a look at this resource because you see, what could I do with the set UID binary, with the pseudo privileges in this environment? Are there anything that I could latch onto with the programs that are already installed and available? Folks familiar with GTFO bins? A couple hands, yeah. LOLBins just as well. Don't forget, though, there was a time where this wasn't even a resource. And I'll admit, though, this caught on. This started to become kind of a trend, kind of a cool thing for security research to really simply compile and collect and archive all of those resources, if just because the information is so valuable. Folks know LOL bins, folks know GTFO bins. Are you familiar with lolol.farm? Living off the land. This is a funny meta resource that collects and catalogs all of those different other resources that aren't strictly just looking at Windows binaries or GTFO bins, Linux binaries. Maybe they take that even further. Maybe it's worth still documenting, even if it's just scrappy notes, to see what could be done in an Active Directory environment. What about false positives for your product of choice, SIEM, EDR, XDR, whatever acronym buzzword? I know we have too many of those. What about drivers? What about the kernel drivers or things that are working at that root level here? Living off the land drivers is another research project. This includes the hashes, the SHA-256, all the different things for what could be taken advantage of for privilege escalation, for beating up on an endpoint, because if just one of those drivers is installed, it's vulnerable, and maybe you could take advantage of it. Really, really cool to see that big list and get an understanding as to how prevalent these things are. And then you have even more conversations in the cybersecurity industry. Hey, is Microsoft tracking all these things? And like the Microsoft block list, kernel drivers that are out and about. When we shine the spotlight on something like this, one of those efforts, then you can really bring it to the table and let the whole other cybersecurity know and track all of the different things, all of the stuff across the yard sale, right? Across all the too many different facets and functions that we fall down. Things like living off of trusted sites. Things, maybe there isn't a specific website that's blocked, and we'll zoom in on that in just a second, but a couple others like different file extensions that are used and abused by hackers, different malicious APIs, Win32 API functions that malware might use. Really awesome resource to be able to see all of these together. Maybe the Mac world just as well. I was pulling a thread on living off of trusted sites because that is one that we don't always think about. Maybe you protecting your environment, looking at your network. What are those third-party kind of SaaS solutions or just online apps that we naturally use as part of the work that you get done? Are you a Dropbox shop? Are you using Google Drive? Do you have folks that are in GitHub? What if there are a couple other equivalent or alternative resources that you never really use, so you wouldn't expect to see network traffic in and out there? So could we add whatever deny or allow lists or configure when we let network traffic go in and out, so we're not just blocking or denying, or we are in some cases, to be able to limit the attack surface so hackers and threat actors don't exfiltrate or use phishing or command and control off of any of these other resources. That's the LOTS project, living off trusted sites. Now I'll admit, because I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I don't want to keep beating the drum on this, but I hope this kind of shows and proves that point. I could just keep going. There are so many of these. Things for looking at how ESXi or hypervisors could be taken advantage of, looking at different remote monitoring and management solutions, whether you got Screen Connect or Atera or AnyDesk or UltraViewer or TeamViewer, whatever. Cataloging what these all look like, what they should look like in your environment between the artifacts, the file hashes, the event logs that it generates, if they exist, the network traffic, the ports and protocols that are used. And there's a cool, neat trend, because I think a lot of the folks that are looking at these and starting these projects of LOLBAS, LOL drivers, LOL RMM, etc., while they're spawning new ideas, even looking at different command and control frameworks or protocol handlers, things that could still be done with different like schemas on Windows, all of this stuff that just takes someone looking at it. It just takes you or anyone's curiosity to go explore and go see, hey, this thing over in the corner that's kind of getting some cobwebs as part of the yard sale. No one's giving it too much attention. Can I go take a look as to how that can be manipulated, used, and abused? Whether that's offensive or defensive, red or blue. I really like LOL C2. This one is a collection of the applications that could be used for command and control, like remote access tooling, just to be able to send commands back and forth from an implant, agent, beacon kind of thing. I know if you try hard enough, sure, anything could be a C2. I like Counter-Strike is up there. That's kind of funny. Good resource if anyone wanted to scroll through, and I hope, again, these are things you'd be willing to take home and explore if you weren't tracking, or if you weren't familiar with each and every one of these. And this is me falling down the rabbit hole. I'm sorry, I apologize. But more free resources. Folks are familiar with the GitHub awesome lists? Yeah. Collections of links, of references, of resources, of more education material just on GitHub. Again, completely free. And there are so many of these for cybersecurity. If you had any interest at all in cyber deception, in honeypots, in a little bit more AI security here and there, maybe some cheesy Web3, blockchain, whatever other extra buzzword. Maybe you lean a little bit more into the Internet of Things. Maybe you really like the embedded systems. Maybe you want to catch a little bit of understanding on OT, or operational technology, ICS, industrial control systems. All of these different things, so many of them that we can't all be an expert in. Another one you might be able to funnel down with the awesome lists on GitHub to be able to see more of that. But anyway, let me get to that point. There's too much. There's too much stuff, and you can't absorb all of it. You can't chase, you can't track all of it, or if you can, someone please let me know. That's phenomenal, incredible. But I just don't think you can. You can't get all of the things. You can't know everything in cybersecurity as much as we might want to. So you could generalize. You could get a little bit of what you can of each and everything. Maybe your knowledge is, what is it, a mile wide and a foot deep? I don't know how you say that and you flip it and inverse it one way or the other. Whether or not you specialize, you get into something that you're really, really interested in. That's a good move. That's a good approach. Generalize to start so you get this wide knowledge base, and maybe specialize on what you enjoy. Because that's the next part I think that's important. When you're browsing the wares of this yard sale or fire sale, of all of these things out on display for you, if you know you can't get it all, don't be that buyer that tries to get everything from the fire hose. How do you know what to get? How do you know what certification to chase, what training, what class to take, what workshop to attend, which conference to go to, which exploit technique, what new vulnerability that fell out of the sky that you should be chasing, what threat actors you want to track, what CTI you want to cover? How do you know? Well, I think this is easy. Get what you like. Just get what you're interested in. Get what you find fun. Because that's the only way you're going to keep doing it. That's the only way you're going to keep wanting to explore more, and you aren't going to get hit and overwhelmed by that absolute overabundance of everything, the stress, the burnout, the imposter syndrome. So keep yourself happy while you do what you think is fun and you enjoy and the stuff that you like. A couple more tactical tips on that though, and maybe just an anecdote. Maybe I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole, forgive me, but I do want to tell you another sort of story related to what we've been laying as the foundation here already. Have folks seen this? This verify you're human kind of CAPTCHA looking thing? Like you're used to, filling out a form on the internet or going through some other thing that you might be doing out online. This was a technique. This was a trick that some threat actors kind of took advantage of and started to play with, because this button here, verify you're human, click I'm not a robot, is something that maybe a lot of us are very desensitized to, just because we're so used to filling out that CAPTCHA online and getting on with whatever you were trying to do in the moment. So some hackers, some info stealer malware variants. This is llama stealer for the nerds and geeks amongst us. Way back in, I think, August or September of 2024, last year or so, they actually took that idea of a CAPTCHA, verify you're human, and said, look, we're not going to give you a couple pictures of fire hydrants to click on, or, tell me how many bridges are in this picture. They said, no. Let's have you press the Windows key and R on your keyboard, press Control V, and then press Enter. Okay, from the giggles, I think you all know what that does. Yeah, this is the Windows Run dialog box, and this is the Control V hotkey to paste from your clipboard, and then Enter to run whatever the payload might be or whatever was in your clipboard, like you copy and paste usually with Control-C and Control-V. Now the website, this lure, this lie, the social engineering disguise to verify you are human from any website would have already prepared or pre-poisoned the contents inside of your clipboard. And the web browser lets you do that, by the way. Some folks are like, what? But yeah, document, JavaScript, totally cool. So we started to see this in action. A whole lot of folks are screaming and shouting about chasing this, llama stealer, just giving these instructions, the simple step 1, step 2, step 3, to be able to execute code, to run malware, detonate, execute, invoke some payload that could get past a lot of your security controls because you just straight up lied to the victim. You said, if you want to follow through with the website, the form that you're filling out, the verify you're human, CAPTCHA, I'm not a robot, just click the couple things on your keyboard. Now, a lot of us that were giggling laugh at this and say, that's stupid. That's dumb. Who's ever going to fall for that? You know what that is. We know what that is. But mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, sons, daughters, I don't know, a lot of folks that aren't as technically savvy as we are, that don't have that knowledge and education, are going to fall for this. Now, I got to be honest, I made a mistake because stupid me, I had a little bit of an insomnia project looking at this and thinking like, theirs looked bad. We could make it look better. And I put it out on GitHub like an idiot. So it now looks a little bit more fulfilling, more realistic to the Google reCAPTCHA. But that was the trick in the I'm not a robot, verify you're human kind of thing. But now stylized with the cutesy, realistic, graphic colors, and even a little trick where we would comment out at the very end of the payload in the run dialog box, so you never got to see the PowerShell command or the actual CMD, DOS, actual invocated command. But then you could run whatever you wanted to. Now, I put that out because I thought it was cool, because I thought it was neat, because I thought that would be raising awareness and getting some education out there a little bit more. And I made a little YouTube video trying to cover, whoa, look at what threat actors are doing. Look at what hackers are up to. See how fake CAPTCHA runs malware. And that did well, got a lot of eyes. Some folks were kind of tracking this thing. And now, I'm sorry, if you've seen this across the internet, I do feel partially to blame, because this kind of started to blow up a little bit after the GitHub repository for a reCAPTCHA fish and the social engineering lure or lie. I think Proofpoint was telling me when I got to chat with some of their friends and folks that Selena Larson said, like, John, do you know how many threat actors are using this reCAPTCHA fish? I'm like, no, I really don't, honestly. How many? And she's like, thousands. I'm sorry. But this made some waves. This got some headlines. It's got some news. Now, okay, fake CAPTCHA is kind of running amok. But I am tracking, I am hoping, I am thinking that, look, this is us shining the spotlight on something that we hadn't thought of before, that we never had the conceptual idea, something as stupid as weaponized copy-paste is going to set the internet on fire. And now we know we got to have even more of that education, have even more of that awareness, have even more of letting folks know this is what threats could look like. So, let me add another note, though. This is not a new idea by any means. ClickFix was the name that kind of became of this, and we've seen this in even years prior. Phishing emails that might include, just have some stupid copy-paste PowerShell with an encoded command. You could put in your web browser, you could put in your file explorer and create FileFix, maybe that we're used to, or other different dubbed nicknames for all of this. And that actually took a whole lot of different variations. Folks are tracking FileFix, putting something in your file explorer, or download fix, where you staged a download and kind of HTTP smuggling request drive-by download, where you already have something in your cache you could latch onto. Maybe someone called this terminal fix, where on Linux or on Mac, there are other keystrokes you could run and use to get to that simple cradle to execute code or run a command. Now I know this is a rabbit hole. I'm sorry, I fell down another tangent and anecdote, but I wanted to tie this together because that whole idea is not all that sexy. It's not all that leaked. Copy paste a couple steps to lie to the user and tell them to open the run dialog box. That's not some leaked kernel 0-day VM escape browser sandbox whatever exploit. It's stupid. It's dumb, but it needed more eyes on it, apparently. So I got to thinking some time ago, look, what if we had an equivalent like living off the land, LOLBAS, or GTFOBIN's equivalent, even for something as small and as simple and as stupid as this whole ClickFix idea? What if there were, now that there are more conversations of privacy changes, maybe regulations and conversations where we might now have to upload our ID to different sites here and there. I'm sure you could fill in the gaps. I wonder if there are going to be even more lies and scams and social engineering lures that could tell you, I don't know, not just I'm not a robot, but maybe some gamers might want to play the next Steam game, and there's a lie that says, you should fix your graphics driver. Let's just run you through DXDiag so that way you could save the cached information and bring it to the service to us to fix it for you. Or maybe your HTTPS certificates aren't what they should be when you're browsing to a secure site. Try to open our credential or certificate viewer, certificate request. A lot of different options for how you could ride off of a local program that might have a flashy GUI, nice little window that looks believable. And again, lies. Now I had a thought, though, that if I were to put together that whole wiki, maybe a ClickFix wiki to think up these scenarios, I probably can't handle that on my own. I couldn't be a maintainer, I couldn't organize, I couldn't keep track of an open source project. And that's when I got to think, hey, what about these community members? What about all the friends and folks and people in the industry, peers and colleagues that are already doing some similar stuff? And we can work together here. So folks may or may not know this click grab project, kind of a little play off of the click fix, but that was actually put together by a good friend of mine, Mike Haggis. He's out on the internet, Michael Haggis, or M. Haggis, the Hag, and he's over at Splunk, one of the threat researchers there. And he's also always helping contribute to Atomic Red Team, another big name. He's one of the maintainers for LOL drivers and LOL RMM, everything that we've already discussed. And while he was putting together click grab in lieu of all this click fix running around across the internet, I reached out to him. I said, hey, I have this stupid idea. I don't know if I'm going to set the internet on fire again on accident, but I think we should get more awareness on this, and we should start to crowdsource or get the community involved in kind of this. Whenever they see some new variant, some new trend, some new file fix, download fix, terminal fix, blah, blah, blah. Because there's too much. There's that thing again. There's too much of it. There's too much stuff. And Mike says, actually, John, this is a good idea. I think this would be cool, like a click fix wiki, like a graphical user interface collection of the tools and ways that this could be done. So I said, look, would you be willing to take it on? Can I pass the torch to you? Here's the idea, here's that concept. Can we work together on this, but can I let you run with it? Can you lead the charge? And he says, honestly, yeah, I think this actually works really well in what we've already built out and is part of ClickGrab. So let's just put them together. So we did. Now on ClickGrab, you can see the click fix techniques page and even see a couple of those same sort of entries that I had on the previous little prototype on a click fix wiki. But I drive this home because this is, again, another community thing. We wanted to make sure, is it easy for folks to contribute, to add to see, and put in new variants that they've uncovered, or other ideas for a lie, for another social engineering lure that someone could fall for, like even something stupid. Your computer monitor is not displaying colors the way it should. Use the Windows Color Management Profile tool to be able to fix it up. And they give you these small, simple instructions, just like folks have seen in ClickFix 1, 2, 3. Maybe it goes up to 5, maybe it goes up to 6 or 7. But think about it, that's still convincing for someone who doesn't know any better. If you found a how-to article online, maybe you follow down all these steps and these instructions, but at the end of the day, they trick you. It's a malware thing. I think we should still raise awareness on what these could look like when they're leveraging parts of the programs and computers that we're already so used to. Anyway, I'm sorry. I fell down that rabbit hole. I wanted to tell that anecdote story because for me, I know as just simple and small and stupid as that was, not some kernel zero-day exploit leet thing, I was interested in it. And I thought it was neat, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. I wanted to play with it. I wanted to poke at it. I wanted to see, how can I recreate this? How can I understand it? And I hope that you do something similar, whether you're beating up some hardware hacking, some reverse engineering, some try hack me or hack the box or online war game, PicoCTF, whatever, capture the flag, whatever you're up to. And as you're working through all of these things, because you know that you like them, you found your interests and you're interested in them, you're taking notes. Or if you aren't, you should. Gosh darn it. Absolutely want to document and keep track of what you're learning so that you can reference it later in the future, right? We've talked about that already. But when you do this for the yard sale of this overwhelming amount of stuff and all these different categories, all the different ends, all the corners and crevices of our industry, I know there are a lot of things that you feel like you want to chase, and maybe you're interested in everything. How do you answer that when you say, oh, I just want to chase everything. I'm too interested in all of it. This is where you need to track down what are the things that you know will get you where you want to go in your career and in the industry and as part of the community and here in the all of us. that is where you know, these are the things that I need to get from A to B to C to carve out your own roadmap. And I got to admit, a lot of that is very personal. That is totally up to you. You kind of get to be the author to carve and charge out your own path. But I think there's an important tidbit. You need to know what you don't need. Because there's too much stuff. Because it's an overwhelming overabundance of everything that is out there. Look, if you want to be some blue teamer, if you want to be some defender, you want to be a SOC analyst, you want to be cutting up malware, chasing hackers, you probably don't need to know about whatever Web3 blockchain stuff. You might not need some of the ICS, OT, operational technology things. Know what becomes extraneous to your worldview and what you want to be chasing. And then leave that out. Because you know your goal at that point. I think it's super important because otherwise you're going to get the burnout. The imposter syndrome will strike. The mental fatigue, the not wanting to explore and passion and pursue what you're interested in here. So let me give you the permission slip. I know this is silly and stupid, but literally that is how you will fall down the rabbit hole and struggle to get yourself out when you try to chase everything. So find what it is that you like, what it is that you enjoy, what it is that you find fun, find that passion, and then ignore the other stuff. Because you can't get everything, and you don't have to. I do need to tell you that, and I want to foot stomp and emphasize that. You don't have to chase absolutely everything. There is too much in the yard sale. There's that stupid picture again. I just love it. I'm sorry. Let me drive the point home, though, because I think folks start to get a little bit squeamish once they're told, like, oh, hey, I shouldn't know everything. Isn't that what we all kind of want to be? Shouldn't we be the greatest, the best? Look, I think each and every one of us has our own skill gaps. I know I do. I know there are plenty of things that I don't know, and I don't want to know, because it's going to get in the way of the stuff that I want to focus in on. But each and every one of us probably has some skill gaps. They're normal. That's okay. I think what you need is that selective focus to be able to zoom in and choose what you care about, what you want to learn, what you want to study, what you want to chase, what you should allocate and spend your time while you're already busy getting work done. But you get to choose that. You get to choose what matters. The way that you can do this, I think for a lot of the new folks, a lot of the individuals that said, yeah, this is my first time coming in and I'm still trying to get started in cybersecurity. Maybe you're jumping into what could be the beginning of your career, the beginning of the industry, or the folks that are already working their day job and have been in this for however many years. You can choose what it is that you give your attention to, and I think if you put it into your schedule, literally, whether it's an hour block, whether it's a half-hour block, whether it's 15 minutes or so, or whenever you can find that time, just to carve it in. If you know you want to chase this, you know you want to get better at reverse engineering, you know you want to understand some of this Yara Sigma rule stuff that folks are up to, you know you want to, figure out what that whole AI doodad really is, you can make time for it. Just time box that learning wherever you can in the smallest sliver in your schedule. But if you make it a priority, then you can ship it in. It will fit. It's always a matter of making that time. But one tidbit that I think I know I want to, again, draw our attention to. This imagery, this allegory, this stupid metaphor of a yard sale, of a fire sale, something that I hoped was a part of that you probably caught on to, is that that's a community thing. That is everyone, that is all of us here, part of the industry with, maybe too much stuff, maybe too much noise, maybe too much clutter and duplicate stuff. But We're going to be looking through that. We're going to be working through that, and that's what we'll do. So when you get to be part of the yard sale, maybe when you open up your yard sale of what you've been learning, of what you've studied, of what you've been able to bring to the table here, share your knowledge. Share what you've been learning and let other folks know what you've been working against. And because you have also been now trying to declutter, prioritize, fine-tune, and filter, and then add in your time box work where you could say, look, I have walked through the yard sale. I've gone down every aisle. I have seen what's important to me, and I know what could be helpful to others, and I don't care about all that other crap. I want to show you what's cool, what's good, what's helpful, and what I think is important for the industry, for the community. Take what's relevant to you, leave out all the other junk, but share those gems. Share those parts and pieces of the yard sale that you think really are helpful and bring that to the community. So there's my call to action. There's how I try to wrap this thing up. Well, I know I've driven all over the map. I know I've been rambling. Thank you for letting me, fall down the rabbit hole on that whole click fix malware. But if I point the finger back at you, you're here. You're at SAINTCON 2025, and you get a room full of tons of people. You're going to go through all these different contests, all these communities, all of these games and activities and exercises. And maybe even outside of the conference, when you're at home or when you're at work and you're cutting up whatever you're doing, I hope you take notes. Because you may have already been taking notes. You've already been doing the hard work, and you've already been capturing it and cataloging it and archiving it the same way that we had the LOL bins project, or the LOL RMMs, or even all those different ideas that they don't have to be sexy. They don't have to be leaked. It's just the information that helps you. And maybe you're in Obsidian or Notion or Cherry Tree or Evernote or OneDrive or whatever shape or form it may take, your notes, in all reality, if you'd maybe clean them up or maybe already as is, that is a worthwhile piece of education and resource that could be shared with the community. You've already done it. So now just put it out there. Contribute. And I know we got a lot already. I know we're at the yard sale, but add to it. Add to the noise. Because that is good. And that is helpful, not just to you for your own learning, for your own practice, for your own competency, but for everyone else here alongside you. And one of the coolest things is that you're already doing it, or at least everyone here, it's already started. Sweet thing about SAINTCON, you're going to meet a ton of people. You're going to meet a lot of instructors. You're going to meet a lot of the trainers. You're going to meet a lot of the speakers. You're going to meet all the people that are sharing what they know, what they have learned, what they have navigated and found throughout the yard sale. While there's a lot of stuff out there, they help curate and distill it down to what they find the value in, and they bring it to you. So my call to action is that you should do this very same thing. You can share, and you can learn a little bit from all of these folks. Because look, that's why you're here. You're here part of the yard sale, good, bad, and ugly, getting out away from the duplicate noise, and then finding that signal, finding the signal to the noise here, finding that value. That's why you're here. Thank you, everybody. That's the end of my rambling and rant. I hope there was a good message in there for you. I'll see you out on the